I'm Attorney Nick Alcock. This is part 2 of what you should do if you get pulled over by the police in Arizona with a DUI. If you have been arrested and you're taken down to the station, you have the right to speak with an attorney before you submit to a blood or breath test. Now in Arizona, they've really moved away from breath testing. There are definitely some jurisdictions that still do it, but the big intoxilizer machine, it's pretty much fallen out of favor because quite honestly it's had a lot of problems. And there are a lot of different ways to attack the intoxilizer machine. All right, so what's the consequence of that? A lot of people, when they're arrested, they go down to the station and they're told that they need to submit to a blood test. There are a ton of people who are very afraid of needles, and so they say, well, look, I'll blow into a machine, but I'm not comfortable extending my arm out and getting it poked by a needle. And I totally get that. The problem is that if you refuse and you do not submit to that blood test, then they can suspend your license, and they can suspend it for a year. It's an implied consent refusal case, where you are refusing to do something that essentially you've already agreed to. When you get your license in Arizona, you've already said that if there's probable cause that you would submit to a blood or breath test. And that's not just one or the other at your discretion or choice. The officer gets to pick, and the officer could actually have you submit to a blood, breath, and urine test if you wanted to, or she wanted to. So it's not quite as simple as being able to pick your poison. One thing you need to know is, let's say you refuse, the officer has a right to call up a judge and get a warrant to extract your blood. And they can actually hold you down and pull your blood out of your arm for you and do it in a way which is not too pleasant. And that's just something you need to bear in mind. It's relatively common, and not certain, but getting towards certain, that a police officer would attempt to get a warrant. And in most cases, they are able to get a warrant. So if you refuse a blood test, they'll probably call up a justice of the peace. They will get a warrant, they will pull your blood, and they'll have your blood anyway, and now your license will be suspended for a year. It gets a little bit more complicated if this is a second or third offense DUI, and whether or not you should consent to a blood test. If you want to call me at 602-989-5000, we can talk about that. So if you have a DUI prior, it gets a little bit murkier as to whether or not you should submit to a blood test. All right, so you're down there at the station, officer wants to take your blood or have you submit to a breath test. Ask to speak with an attorney, because the police officers have to give you the ability to have a confidential and private conversation with an attorney. And they have to do so long as it doesn't interfere with the investigation. If they don't, then your case can be dismissed. So my advice to you is you can always call 602-989-5000 if you get pulled over. You have that right to speak with an attorney, and I definitely suggest that you take that right. If you have any questions about DUI in Arizona, 602-989-5000 is our number, 602-989-5000. Ask to speak with Managing Attorney Stacey Feldman. She is a former DUI prosecutor and is very, very happy to walk you through all the steps of what you should and shouldn't do in a DUI investigation. If you've been arrested and you got your paperwork in front of you, we can answer any questions that you have about DUI. And our attorneys are in court throughout the Valley and the state of Arizona, and we're very, very familiar with how to handle a DUI defense. So 602-989-5000 is our number. My name is Nick Alcock, and thanks so much.